Everyone, thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Kenny and I'll be your host for today. I'm super excited for today's session where Jen and I will talk you through how businesses like yourselves can master your collections process and increase your cash flow. So on the agenda, we'll set some context around why it's so important for Australian businesses to focus on improving cash flow, walk through what a best practice collections process looks like, and finally give you some tips on what your business can do when your existing customers start to pay late. But before we start, we do have a few housekeeping points to cover. We'd love to answer your questions throughout the webinar, so please submit them in the question box on your go-to side panel, and we'll try our best to answer them during the webinar. If we don't get to it, please reach out. We'll reach out to you after this session via email. Also, we do have a few poll questions throughout the session, and we'd really appreciate your input by selecting one of the answers in the pop-up box and clicking submit. Lastly, we will make copies of today's presentation available, so please keep an eye out in your inbox. Now, I'd like to introduce myself and my co-host, Jennifer Loveridge, who is one of Creditor Watch's collections experts. As I said, my name is Kenny. I'm a senior customer support consultant at Creditor Watch. I've been with the business for just over a year now, working in customer support. I spend my days on the phone with our customers, answering any questions they have about our products and assisting with the use of our platform. Jen, tell me a bit about yourself and your role at Creditor Watch.
Thanks, Kenny, and I'll try my best to keep this as short as possible. But I'm Jen from what I can only describe as a small village, something similar to Emmerdale, but without all the drama, in beautiful Taranaki, New Zealand. I've spent nearly 6 years working with the Creditor Watch Collect technology, and my roles are actually quite varied within the company. I'm the mid-market collect specialist, the data management implementation specialist, and I also oversee all our international collect customers. But Kenny, I'm going to stop there because I really don't want to bore you with my naming my 17 pets or anything like that. So I'll put it back to you.
All right, thanks, Jen. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Creditor Watch, we are a leading commercial credit bureau and technology company specializing in commercial credit risk solutions. And we take enormous pride in taking care of our customers and enabling them to get with the best tools and solutions to simply get on with business and trade confidently. So let's get into today's topic of mastering your collections process and improving cash flow. Creditor Watch research has recently found that late payment rates for small businesses are, on average, 3 times greater than for large businesses. With B2B payment defaults increasing since mid-2021 and now being at record highs, it's quite obvious that many businesses are struggling to meet their obligations and are often paying late. For businesses who are being paid late paying customers impact their cash flow and put them at risk of not being able to pay staff and bills, not being able to stock or fulfill orders, and also becoming insolvent. Jen, I'd love to get your expert insight into what strategies you've seen work really well throughout your experience at Creditor Watch.
Yeah, Kenny, let's just start off by prefacing that now to be able to get paid on time, there's a few things that need to be done first. So some of these steps start even before a business becomes a customer. It actually starts at the application and onboarding process. So one, we need to ensure that all new trade credit customers are within an acceptable risk. So this means checking their credit report and investigate red flags such as payment behaviour. 2, continue to monitor each customer's level of credit risk throughout your relationship with them. 3, be proactive about managing risk as they arise. Don't delay, or your chance of getting paid actually reduces as time goes by. And obviously 4, leverage technology and Creditor Watch tools, such as automating your collection process, debt collection letters, lodging defaults. Now, while you can effectively pre-screen both new and existing customers, there will always be some who fail to pay on time. That's just what business is. And this is where your collections process becomes an essential. Alarmingly, 49% of businesses still utilize a manual accounts receivables process, which often means scribbling notes on pads, managing various spreadsheets, and other cumbersome tasks. Furthermore, though, 27% of businesses have indicated that cash flow challenges lead to considerable pressure, which is no surprise. And then finally, businesses who rely on manual processes report that it takes them 67% longer to follow up on late payments than their automated counterparts. But to answer your question, Kenny, there is a few steps that businesses can take to address the issue of late paying customers. And obviously, step one is to follow up overdue invoices as soon as possible. So that means automate as much of the process as possible. So that's email, SMS reminders, and then following up by phone and escalate the matter, but always remembering to maintain that positive customer relationship. We've actually found of businesses who have automated their collections process, 72% say that it's reduced the operating costs. And an advantage we have at Creditor Watch over many of our competitors is that we actually have an in-house AR specialist team based in New Zealand. Our team prioritises customer service and makes around 1,000 calls a week for various clients. This gives businesses the assurance that the escalation calls are being managed, allowing them to save time and money by not needing to hire more staff. And then 49% report improvements in collections. And I just want to give a quick example of this, Kenny, because just last week I was running an annual review for one of our customers. Their average ratio in October 2003 was 68%. Today it sits at just 21%. That is a 47% decrease.
Wow.
So that's absolutely. So as you can see, there's clear benefits in automating your collections process. You can free up time to focus on high impact work or address other challenges. But I would actually like to know from the audience, how does your business follow up on overdue invoices? Let us know in the pop-up.
I'll just give you a few seconds to complete that one. Alrighty, we'll close that one off now. Alrighty, so it looks like we've got 27% of you have noted that you use automated reminders from your accounting software. 8% use escalation calls, and the majority, 65%, do manual follow-ups with email or SMS. Some great insights there.
Those are great insights, actually. I'm quite surprised at the percentage that are still using a manual process.
All right, Jen, back to the key steps. What's next after you've followed up on overdue invoices?
Yeah, sure thing. So step two, so we've just covered off step one. Step two, sometimes no matter how perfectly you've executed your collections process, a customer still fails to make payment. And that's really when you need to escalate the matter with the formal collection letters available in debtor management. And obviously, if that still doesn't work, then you can follow through with registering a payment default. But Kenny, I'm going to let you go into more about defaults. I think that's something that really suits you best because you know a lot more than me.
Thanks for that, Jen. Just before we do talk about defaults, I'd like to get an indication of how many of our audience members today are sending out formal collection letters. They can be things like 30 or 60-day notices, letters of demand, and final notices. If you just want to pop your answer in the poll there.
I do apologise, Kenny. I've got a bit of a squeaky chair going on here.
That's all right. That's no worries.
Oh, no.
Alrighty, thanks for completing that one. Let's have a look. Alrighty, so we've got 18% are currently using data management, 22% are currently not sending out any formal collections letters, and 61% are manually creating letters. Again, some interesting insights there. Okay. So let's talk about registering defaults. All right, so when a business fails to make payment within the agreed terms, you can register a default against them. And for those of you that are not familiar with defaults, a payment default is a black mark on a credit report that indicates a business has not met their payment obligations. A default can stay on a credit report for up to 5 years, obviously affecting the business's credit scores and reputation as well. So why should you be registering payment defaults? Well, the threat of registering a default can act as a deterrent to slow paying debtors. It can also prompt non-compliant debtors to settle any outstanding debts. And finally, it acts as a warning for other businesses and vendors about a business's payment behaviour. Registering a default within Creditor Watch is super easy. In fact, you can actually register directly from debtor management. It just takes a few clicks, all in the same portal that you use to escalate overdue invoices by creating collection letters. So super easy. So Jen, if a customer is looking to improve their collections process, what tools would you recommend to get them started?
Well, I guess to kick things off, I would strongly suggest that our guests get in touch with our team to book a demo. This will provide them a clear view and understanding of how our Collect product works. Now, in any collections process, it's important to have escalation points in place. We use this in our automated reminders as part of our collection strategy, which helps set the appropriate tone while maintaining a good rapport with customers. Now, as customers progress from the collection stage into debtor management, I actually really consider this a crucial escalation point. It's essential to change the tone here to let customers know we won't be taken for granted. You're not going to be a doormat. And should this approach not succeed, obviously the next logical step, Kenny, would be to register a default, as you've previously shown. But yeah, if you could take us a little bit more into detail around defaults, that'd be great. Because
Yeah,
obviously, for me, it goes collect. So we have an onboarding process, we go to collect, we go to debtor management, and it's just a chronological order. So the natural order would be a default. So I'll leave it up to you, Kenny.
Definitely. Thanks, Jen. So yes, as mentioned in the previous slide, registering defaults can be an impactful way to recover unpaid debts. Obviously, it's in a business's best interest to avoid damaging their own credit or payment history, which then deters other companies from doing business with them. In fact, 91% of our customers has said that they will not engage with a company that has an active default, that being a default that is registered but not settled. So I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind everyone of the importance of doing your due diligence to identify risks or potential red flags before choosing to do business on credit terms with another company. Alrighty, we've got some questions coming through, so I think I might ask a couple here, Jen, if that's okay with you. Firstly, how would you set up the automated process?
Setting up the automated process, it actually doesn't take a lot. So for us, we would obviously suggest that you use our Collect product. And what we do is we use workflows to set up that automated process. So say you've got an overdue workflow, that's great. So those are like really friendly toned kind of reminders. And then we escalate those into, once we get to the 30, 60-day mark, if they still haven't paid, or it can be customized to whatever your payment terms are with your customers. That would be a key part, but we can send out more details regarding how we would set that up for the customer, Kenny.
Thanks, Jen. And another one here, is it beneficial to send a reminder on invoices that are due in a week's time?
Absolutely. So the great thing about the Collect product is we actually do have a pre-reminder. So you can set that up to go 2 days before the reminder, 5 days, 7 days. I have found with working with a whole bunch of, I do apologise, that was my cat, the joys of working from home. I have found that, I've lost my train of thought. I have found that sending those pre-reminders, it's usually industry dependent, the ones that are using it. So you would see like building companies or construction companies, appliance companies, they would like to send the pre-reminder, whereas the small mum and dad businesses, they don't really like to annoy their customers too much. So it's actually quite interesting, but yeah, I would strongly suggest it if it's something that you think would help your business, but definitely make sure that you're following up on overdue invoices.
Thanks, Jen. And those reminders, are these automated reminders the same as what Xero does, or do they differ at all?
They do differ, so they're totally customizable, like we said, the template. But on top of that, Xero sends a very generic kind of email or email reminder. The great thing is with our platform, we're able to like put your own email address, so it's coming from your own company rather than Xero. So accounts at ballooncompany.com.au, that sort of thing. So it's very customizable. And we've got to remember that Xero only does so much. So Xero only really does 10% of what the collections process is, Kenny. So I think that's really important to remember, because there's so much more to the collections process. There's the escalation, there's the follow-up calls. Also, SMS has become huge in the last few years. We find that people respond to an SMS reminder, they're more likely to respond to that rather than an email. And that's just the day that, or that's what we live in these days, is people are on their phones constantly. People are receiving hundreds and hundreds of emails, but you'll notice that if anyone gets a text message, they'll respond to it instantly. I do it myself, Kenny.
Definitely guilty of that. All right, let's see if we've got any more questions. Okay, how do you collect from overseas clients? Does the process change at all?
The process is exactly the same. So we have a lot of international customers, but we also have New Zealand customers. So I've got a New Zealand client who has most of their customer base is actually Australian and Singapore. So the collection process stays the same. Obviously, we can use our escalation points and things like that. However, when it comes to registering defaults and things, it really is based on those are really for our Australian customers with or our Australian clients with Australian customers, because we haven't expanded to internationally yet, but I have my fingers crossed that will be happening in the future.
I think it's definitely in the pipeline. So if a client has a 30-day end of month payment terms, what is the ideal time frame before registering a payment default?
I guess I would let you speak on that more. You'd probably have more experience than me on when a customer or a company is registering a payment default, Kenny.
I can. No worries. Within commercial credit reporting, you can lodge a default if it is over $100 and just 1 day overdue and not currently in dispute. However, obviously, best practice, it is good to give your customer a little bit of time and go through a bit of a process of sending those letters out and giving them a warning. So I would say around 60 days after you've sent that final demand is probably a good time to think about lodging.
Perfect.
Just on that as well, lodging a default comes with your Creditor Watch subscription. There's no extra charge or any costs involved in registering defaults, and you can lodge as many as you like. And you also can use the letter templates within debtor management, the final demand letters. They do have a warning within that letter already written that states that you will be lodging a payment default if you do not receive payment. So that's all basically already included in the letters that you'll be sending out from debtor management.
Perfect. I actually had no idea that registering a default was free. So I'm learning.
Very common question. Yeah, everybody always thinks it's an extra charge, but absolutely free. You're free to lodge whenever you like. Let's just see if there's any more questions here. Can a default be lodged on a client without an ABN? No, I mean, if they have an ACN, you still can lodge, but they do have to have one or the other. It has to be an entity, as we only deal with commercial, not consumer. Do customers know who have placed a default against them? Yes, when you lodge a default, your business name does go on the default. We do also have customers that have a couple of different businesses under their one account. We can set your account up to have different ABNs so that when you do lodge a default, it's connected to the right business. But yes, that will have your business name on the default. Another one here, if a client has a default or bad credit history already, how can we collect the payment from them? Probably pass that one over to Jen.
Yeah, interesting question. I will get our head of collect or our head of marketing to send out a proper answer, but I will try and explain it best as I can. Like, obviously that's when our onboarding and application process is really vital to get those details on a customer. However, getting payment from them would just follow the same steps. And it may mean that you may have to register a default against them as well. Like Kenny spoke in regards to the percentage of businesses that will work with a company who have 2 defaults lodged against them. I can't remember what the percentage was, Kenny. What was that percentage?
Oh, I think it was 91% of our customers won't engage with a business if it's got a default on file.
And what about 2 defaults? I think we spoke on that as well.
I didn't put that stat in here, but from memory, I think I can remember that 62% of businesses with 3 defaults on file, businesses with 3 defaults on file are 62% more likely to default or to become insolvent, but within 12 months. Sorry, we got there.
I've probably I've caught you off guard. But yeah, I think following the same process that we've spoken about in today's webinar to collect a payment, there's no fast way of collecting that payment if a customer does have a default. But registering a default against them may help future customers, I suppose. But you do find that people with defaults still pay their debtors, or they still pay their debts to certain companies. So I guess speak to the customer, try and get that rapport, or click into a demo and we can see what the data actually looks like.
Would you say that you would maybe put the pressure on a bit more? You were speaking before about how mum and dad businesses try and go a little easier on their customers. If you're dealing with somebody that's already got a lot of that negative or adverse data on their file, you're going to put a little bit more pressure on, maybe do those phone calls and, you know, take a bit more of a stern tone with them.
Absolutely, and I think that's what I like to call it escalation points. So changing that tone. And mum and dad businesses really don't like to do it. They're obviously smaller businesses. They rely heavily on their repeat customers. But yeah, I think you're right there, Kitty. And I was also going to say something else, but it's totally slipped my mind, so I apologise.
I do have another question here from someone on the webinar. Is the Creditor Watch subscription only for Australian businesses, or can you check New Zealand or overseas businesses ratings as well? Yes, we do have a New Zealand reports available and other international reports available within the platform, and for Collect as well. That is a separate product, and you can sign up for Collect from anywhere. Another one coming through, can you default a trust account? You can place a default on any entity on our website as long as it is registered. You know, if it's not deregistered, you can lodge a default on it, so feel free. What about removing a default? Can that be done easily? That's a little different. We do have a process in place for removing defaults that have been lodged in error. For example, you've you know, put in the wrong amount or put the wrong due date. We can send you a form, you complete it, send it back to us, and we can go ahead and remove that for you. The other way that a default will be removed is if it is disputed by the debtor, and we do have a process in place, you know, for them to reach out, and we do an investigation. So those are sort of the two options to removing a default. However, the best case scenario when a default is being paid is that you would update it to settled and not have it removed. So there is the option to edit the status of a default from your account. Just jump back in to the default on file, click edit, and then just change the status to settled. Alrighty. Do you have a template to use for new clients like credit applications? We do. We actually have a product called Apply Easy, which is an onboarding tool for online applications. It will completely automate and bring online your application process, and it's completely customizable. You'll be set up with an Apply Easy specialist who will be able to help you create your applications to send out to your customers. Any more coming through? Lots of questions today. For what reason would Creditor Watch reject a default we have lodged? There is a few reasons. One, the information on the document may not match the information that you have uploaded with. For example, the date on the document is different. The amount on the document is different. There's no date on the document, or no trading terms present on the document. Then there could be other reasons. The invoice may pertain to consumer debt, or it may have been an invalid document uploaded. We accept statements, invoices, and final demand letters. So there's a few different reasons, and if it is ever rejected, feel free to just give us a call, and we'll be able to let you know why it was rejected. Okay, let's see if there's any more here. All right, and this is one for you, Jen. Do you have a payment gateway attached? I believe this is in regards to Collect.
We do have a payment gateway, so we use Payrex, and it's a very simple application process. You just fill in a form online, and then Payrex will let you know the details that need to be input to the system, and that's pretty much it. Oh, awesome. Sorry, one other thing. There are charges, so 1.4% for Visa and MasterCard, and 1.9% for Amex card. So that's the surcharge, that, and then you can input that to your customer as well.
Awesome, thanks, Jen. Okay, will the customer be alerted if a payment default is registered against them, especially if they have been ignoring communications of their debt beforehand? The answer to this one is no. We do not alert customers when a payment default is registered. This is because we would need to have the contact details of every business within Australia for us to be able to do that, and unfortunately we don't. So yeah, the entity won't get an alert unless, of course, they are a member of Creditor Watch and they are monitoring themselves. But of course, all of the entities that are monitoring that entity will get an alert when a default is lodged. Okay, awesome. I think that's all the questions we have time for today. Just a big thank you to everyone who has joined the webinar. I hope you have found it insightful. And we obviously will be sending any follow-ups to any questions that haven't been answered already. So do keep an eye out in your inbox. We'll reach out to you there. And as again, we'll make the slides available for you as well. So check for your inbox for that too. And just one more last poll. If you'd like some more information from us, please let us know in the pop-up and we'll reach out to you.
Just before we go, Kenny, I would I would just like to point out, I got a lovely message from Karina, who is tuning in to our webinar today, who's part of the Creditor Watch family. And she said that my cat was her highlight for today.
Oh,
So Karina,
it's a nice little visitor.
yeah, I wanted to be in there. I wanted to be a part of the webinar.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. We'll close this off now. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.